In this first section, we're looking at the central nervous system. So up until now, we've looked at the nervous system, the introduction portion. And in the introduction portion, what we talked about was general concepts in the nervous system. We said that there's two main parts to the nervous system. We have the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, which we're going to look at now. And then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is how we access the brain and spinal cord. So first we're going to talk about what are the organs of the nervous system. So this drawing here is representative of the brain and spinal cord. Okay, so brain and spinal cord. And that collectively makes up the central nervous system in terms of organs. As you can see from this picture, they are surrounded by protection. The cranium surrounds the brain, while the vertebrae surrounds the spinal cord. And when we recall when we talked about the vertebrae, we said there was this vertebral foramen that was in the middle of each vertebrae, and when they're stacked up on top of each other, they created a tunnel, if you will, for the spinal cord. As well, there are layers around it of membranes and fluid. So the first thing we'll talk about is the meninges and their protective mechanism. And I'm going to slip over to a picture over here. Okay, so there's this picture, and then there's this picture. I think I like the next picture the best. Okay, so there are meninges are coverings over top. There's three of them, and so there's dura, which is the most outside. Okay, that's next to the cranium, and then in the middle there's arachnoid, and then the next one is the pia. So we'll talk about them generally. So the dura is the outermost layer. Okay. And we talked about the arachnoid, and we talked about the pia. And it's fibrous connective tissue with very vascular supply to it and nerves. And it's almost like it's adhered to the inside of the cranium and helps form the internal periosteum. So remember the word periosteum means around, okay, and then osteum refers to bone. And this whole dura then goes all the way down into the spinal cord as well. The meninges extend all the way down there, and it terminates at the very end as a blind sac. There is a little space down at the bottom, and that's where we put the epidural medication, epi meaning above, so it's going to go above the dura, but helps numb people when they're having pain like labor or perhaps some surgery as well. The arachnoid layer is the middle layer, okay, and you can see it represented here. Okay, so the dura, if you follow it along, yeah, okay, kind of purpley there. And the arachnoid is this sort of central middle layer, and it's avascular, meaning no blood supply, of course, and it's sandwiched in between the dura on the top and the pia on the bottom. And this is where we have a space called the subarachnoid, so sub meaning below the arachnoid, and that's where our cerebral spinal fluid flows through, and we'll talk about that towards the end of this unit. And then lastly, the pia, it's represented here by this orange color right here, and it is, again, very vascular and helps nourish the brain and cord, and it's like it's the very closest, if you will, to the brain itself. I'm going to go back, just point those out in these pictures as well. Okay, so again, the dura is the closest here, okay, and you'll see it here. And the arachnoid is this kind of arachnoid because it looks like a spider web, and the pia is the bluish one here. The space in the middle here, subarachnoid, sub meaning below. That's where the CSF is. So people remember it this way. So from the inside out, this creates a pad for your brain, pia, arachnoid, and dura. Okay, and just a different look here. Now we're looking at it from the perspective of the spinal cord, and I think the colors are lovely. You can see the duras here, the arachnoids here, and the pias here. There are some spaces that we need to think about. So remember the subarachnoid. The subarachnoid space is below the arachnoid, but above the pia, and that's where our central nervous, cerebral spinal fluid is. Epidural, I'm going to go back to the other picture, it'll be easier. Epidural is above here, above the dura, epidural. And then subdural is, you can see it's just in between these two layers. So 3 different layers. They become important when we talk about head injury in pathophysiology. And that finishes up the first clip for us.